Hi, welcome to Tunnel Vision. I'm Angie,
And I'm Zemor.
and this is Tunnel Vision.
Yo, yo.
So, welcome you guys again to Tunnel Vision. Last time we left off, right, we were talking about where Tunnel Vision came from. And if you have not checked out that last video, please go and check the video out. Tunnel Talk with Angie and Zemor. But how Zemor, in the process of him going through what he went through.
I go back to when I was laying there in the hospital bed, after surgery. And I'm laying there, and there's nothing I can do for myself. And I've always been the type of person that I never wanted to ask anyone to do anything for me. I've always been the type of person to do things for myself. And there I am. I can't do anything for myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's humbling on a whole nother level. Like, I can't even put it into words really how humbling that is. But you're laying there, and anyone that walks in that room, you might have to ask them to do something for you. Can you hand me this? Can you do that for me? Can you do this for me? And I'm laying there, I'm praying to God. I'm trying to figure out how am I going to make it through this. I go from one day walking just fine, living life just fine, and then there I am on my back. So it's like, how do I make it from here? And I'm asking God, like, how do I make it? I can't make it without you, but how do I make it? I'm laying there and it hit me. I have to develop tunnel vision to get back on my feet.
Mm-hmm.
I had to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
And right then, my goal became getting back on my feet. And that's really where it was born. And that's been my goal ever since, and my focus ever since. And that's how we're here today with A to Z Tunnel Vision,
Mm-hmm.
because we know that everyone has a tunnel that they're going through in their life. My tunnel at the moment was getting back on my feet, but other people have their own trials and tribulations that they're going through, and tunnel vision will get you there. Putting God first, developing tunnel vision will get you through.
I can talk about what, I've gone through personally in my life, how having tunnel vision myself actually helped and propelled me through, with Zamora having the loss of a limb and him having tunnel vision of being able to get back on 2 feet again, that helped him get where he is today. One of the topics that we wanted to talk about was diabetic care. And um, because diabetes is a beast within itself. It really is. It's something that is so has a lot of unknown factors for a lot of people. It's considered the silent killer. It's considered a hidden killer. It's considered deadly. It really is. And there's a lot of seriousness that comes along with it. It's not all just about sugar intake and things like that. But so now we just want to take you on just a brief little trip to talk about education and diabetes and about managing it and how important it is to the healing process. So this is our educational segment. Just sit tight with us and bear with us just a moment.
Let's talk about diabetes. One of the things that people don't know about diabetes is that diabetes affects 30 million children and adults in the US. That's 1 in 11 Americans. 84 million Americans have prediabetes and are at risk of developing type 2 diabetes. 90% of them don't know they have it. There are different forms of diabetes which can affect a person. There's type 1 diabetes, where the body produces no insulin at all. And then there's type 2, where the body produces insulin, but not enough. So there's not a sufficient amount. And then there's gestational diabetes, which affects pregnant women. So Let's also talk about some of the symptoms of diabetes. There's high blood sugar levels, there's an increased thirst and urination, fatigue, blurred vision, weight loss or weight gain, and slow healing wounds. So let's talk about the cause of type 1 diabetes. The exact cause of type 1 diabetes is unknown, but it is believed to be an autoimmune disorder. This means that the body's immune system mistakenly attacks and destroys the beta cells in the pancreas that produce insulin. And the cause of type 2 diabetes is a complex disease with multiple contributing factors. The exact cause is not fully understood, but several factors increase the risk of developing the condition. Genetics, obesity, physical inactivity, and age. And let's talk about some of the treatments. Lifestyle changes, diet, exercise, and weight management. Also making sure that you see a medical physician regularly. So let's end with a couple of known facts about diabetes. Diabetes can be diagnosed at any age, and diabetes is not contagious.
Now, let me talk about this, like with the slow and healing wounds.
Yeah,
That is major when it comes to the healing process. I think one
yeah,
of the things is that you discovered that you're further along than you
right,
should be,
right,
right?
right. I mean, the thing is, when I'm, after my surgery, I'm in the hospital, and they're explaining to me, how important it is to keep your sugar levels right, and your protein. Make sure you're eating protein, and like I said, I developed tunnel vision, right? So anything they told me I was going to do,
Yeah.
exactly what they said to get to where I needed to be. So when you say that, I'm further along than I should be and that most people would be at this point, is because of that, developing that tunnel vision,
Yeah.
doing everything that I was told to do. And it helped with the healing process. It
Yeah.
really did.
So, like, there are things that you could actually do to, when we were talking about like healing the wound. And I want to go back to some more story when you were saying, like, with your foot, you had a blister on your foot, right?
Right.
And then you popped the blister, and that wasn't your first blister on your foot, right?
No.
So something you was probably taken care of, I'm sure, like, you taking care of it and thinking that the healing is going normal, and
Yeah.
then you come to find out that it's not, because when you are diabetic, which he was just diagnosed with diabetes less than a year prior to this actually happening.
Right.
Um, Zemor had all those symptoms. I remember, like, when we had first started dating, I remember that, your energy level was different,
Right.
And then I even brought it up. I was like, man, you're different. And you're like, different how, and I was like, like your energy has changed. Like, he was just kind of going through the motions day by day. Get up, go to work, come home, right?
Yeah.
Like, do your things that you got to do when you go home. Get up, go to work, come home, right? It's just like just going through the motions day by day. But really, even any activities that was outside of that was draining, and that's something that I noticed. And I'm like, dude, you got to go to the doctor, get this, checked out and figured out. And I'm going to say this, just even when they say that 84 million Americans are living that with pre-diabetes, and 90% of those 84 million, they don't even know it. Go to the doctor, go get yourself checked out, and not knowing, and that's not good. And living,
Right. I mean, and that's the thing too, when you think about it, the reason so many people don't know is because you think about it, like you're experiencing the symptoms and you don't really realize it, like it becomes your norm, right?
yes,
So you're tired, you're like, oh, I'm wore out, but you
yeah,
don't really realize that something is wrong because you haven't, went to see a doctor and to be checked out.
Yeah.
So it becomes your norm and you just deal with it. So I believe that's why there's so many people that don't know, that they're dealing with it.
Yeah. So even when it came to his healing process, like he mentioned, a lot of things had to change. And even when you were talking about the things that you did, everything you needed to do, because being diabetic, even though that wasn't the reason why he lost his leg, that's still a factor when it came to the healing process. It was also a factor of the reason why his boil did not heal as fast, is because he is diabetic. And so then ultimately, like I said, it ended up getting infected with the nectarizing fasciitis, which is a flesh eating infection. Um, and so it was very important for him to continue to do the things that he needed to do, have that extra protein, every day. Like protein was really important. Having that zinc, that was really, really important. Having the vitamins that they gave him, that was important as well.
Yeah.
Managing his insulin, that was important.
Yeah.
And those are things that was not easy and it was difficult. So one of the things is that we ended up, changing, doing a diet change. Um, they work the heck out of you in rehab, and then they fed you like a hamster. I don't know.
Man.
That should have been illegal.
Man. I'm talking about a piece of toast and a little fruit cup,
Tell me. He had rehab for, it was only supposed to be like 3 hours a day, right? But with him being in the rehab center with a lot of geriatric patients, they would just tell him no. We didn't want to. They didn't feel like it. And since he was so willing, and eager, they would come get him. So he went from 3 hours a day to 5 hours. I think one day you were literally gone for 6.5 hours. Like I kept calling to try to see if you were out of rehab before I came up there, and it was like, oh yeah, his occupational therapist just came and got him. The physical therapist just came and got him, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And then I'm trying to figure out what he didn't ate, and he talking about I had a, what'd you say? A piece of toast, some fruit. A
piece of toast with a little fruit cup,
It should have been illegal.
So I'm working out in therapy on just that. That was all I had in me.
Oh, in therapy and rehabilitation, he lost 18 pounds. And he got to a point where he's like sneaking snacks, okay, because he would make friends. And wherever he was, like at the hospital, you did. He would make friends. And that's why I loved one of his nurses, because she would come in and she would check his sugar, and she just like, well, why would his sugar go up in the middle of the night? So, it's like, this is ridiculous. But he's harboring snacks because, they feeding him like a little hamster.
I had a whole stash of graham crackers.
Oh, graham crackers, yes. For after he finished his physical therapy, he would have something that he would be able to eat on or something like that. But regardless, it was about managing those things. We look back and we laugh, now, but that is the reason why, it has really helped him push his healing process faster, a lot sooner. So I want to say, just even, of course, this was not your beginning weight, of what you could see of. I think you said your highest weight at some point. I don't know if you really want to share that with people.
Yeah, ain't no saying.
Oh, okay. I don't know. What was it?
I was probably getting like 350.
350 was your highest weight.
Yeah.
And so, he had a goal of, what was it, like 250 or something like that was your goal?
Yeah, that was my goal.
I think that you were, at some point, weren't you like 16 pounds from your goal weight? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So, pretty amazing. And that was just from increasing the protein, eating healthy and everything, controlling the insulin, even though he did have those snacks, everything was in moderation. But even with me cooking for him as well and making sure that he's eating healthy, I ended up dropping some pounds too in the process, to even to the point where my wedding dress actually didn't fit. I went into a fitting and my wedding dress was supposed to be on the shoulders. So I originally had it on the shoulders, and then on the wedding day, my dress ended up dropping off the show. I was like, okay, I love it. I'm rocking with this. I rock with it, but I loved how I looked in my dress. But a lot of that was the attribution because I'm like, in order for me to fully support, I have to do what he's doing. There was some pushback when it came to the protein. And because I pushed a lot of protein, and that was even protein shakes, I'm trying to make the protein um, healthy and fun, I should say. I'm like, I'm making like powdered protein smoothies, and he's like, no, this is not it.
Like my wife was just saying, there are some interesting stories when I was in the hospital. I mean, I had a nurse's aide that
Wait, before you talk about the nurse's aide, so I'm gonna say this. First of all, he wasn't okay. Zamora grew all of this while he was in the hospital. He was in the hospital for a lengthy time, and when I saw it, I said, I said, we keeping that, I mean, because he was trying to, start to do things for himself. One of the things that he's used to doing every day is shaving. So I would go in there and I would trim him up, right? Make sure he kept the beard. And I mean, even with one leg, he's sitting up there pulling the nurses. This I'm gonna talk about her. I'm gonna talk about it. A particular nurse, literally, they come in and get you ready to change you and everything, and sponge bathe you, and yeah. So he's getting ready to get his wipe down, his sponge bath, and so then she gets to very private areas, and he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. She's like, oh, you want to do that yourself? I was like, yes, there's nothing wrong with his hands. Now I'm not there, right? So, like, I mean, he can reach that part. Let's talk about it, because people come along to help you in ways that you would have never imagined that they would help you.
This is true.
This is true,
True.
And even though he had a nurse that was there, and I trusted her, that she would always make sure that he was eating right, and make sure that he's not his sugars are on the levels that they should be, because sugar is really important. We're gonna get into that, like as far as like the healing and everything. But we got to give a shout out to Flo, don't you think? Yeah, we definitely got to give a shout out to Flo.
So there was a nurse's aide. Like I said, you laying there, you can't do anything for yourself. I'm trying to figure out like how I'm going to even be able to get up out of the bed, right? So I couldn't do anything for myself. I couldn't wipe myself or anything. So there was this nurse who had to wipe me, and the best way I can put it, it felt like she wiped me with sandpaper. After that situation happened, I definitely, look, I learned. Like one of my cousins told me that it was basically I was being taught. It was like, you going to learn today how to do what you need to do. And that's what it was. I mean, it was a blessing in disguise. I don't think it was malicious. It was something that I needed for real. I didn't know it at the time, but it was a blessing in disguise. Like for real, it was. Once again, like I say, a humbling on a whole nother level.
Yeah, I'm sure.
For me, one of my main things with my tunnel vision was being able to walk at our wedding. Like that was my goal. Now, I love my wife, and I was willing to marry her if I would have had to come down that aisle in a wheelchair, on crutches, or whatever. But I prayed to God that I would be able to walk the aisle at our wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we postponed the wedding. We pushed it back some because there's no way, if we would have had it on the date that we originally had, there's no way I would have been able to walk the wedding on that date.
Mm-hmm.
And even with the date we chose, I didn't know if I would be able to.
Yeah.
But I was praying every day that God would bless me to be able to walk the aisle. Now, we set the date, and that's where, I'm focused on the tunnel vision to get there. But, there's so many things, so many factors that had to work out in order for that to happen. So many things had to fall into place. I had to heal, and the healing process is different for everyone.
Yes.
And you don't know how it's going to be until, it actually happens.
Right.
Because one of the things I wanted to know when this first happened was, how long is it going to take for me to get back on my feet?
Yeah.
And no one could give me an answer. They said it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's a little discouraging to hear that. It's different for everyone. But I understood it. And that's where, my focus and goal was to do everything I was told to get back on my feet.
Yeah.
And, through God's grace and blessings, I was able to walk at our wedding. Things did fall into place, but I was fitted for my prosthetic. Well, I was cleared to get my prosthetic, because you have to be cleared. They have to know that you're completely healed. So I was cleared to get it, but it was like 10 days before the actual wedding. So there's no training or anything I had when I walked down that aisle. I walked down that aisle with God.
Yeah.
And, I'm walking down the aisle, and all I'm thinking about is making it down to the end of this aisle. Don't fall, don't slip, But, God blessed it to take place.
Yeah. And that's also, like we said, just setting goals, and there's milestones and breakers that you had to go through, barriers that you had to go through. Everybody has to go through a process as well. And I think when you're going through the process, it's uncomfortable.
It is.
It's uncomfortable being processed. And just how the caterpillar turns into a butterfly and they're in a cocoon. I'm sure that cocoon is uncomfortable, but something miraculous happens within a cocoon. Something happens in that uncomfortable season. Something beautiful is birthed out of that. And I look at that video of you walking down the aisle. Like I said, that is manifestation of prayers and God blessing you with that. And even like daily, just being persistent in that prayer of asking God, to do this through you, that He did it and He blessed you through that, and blessed you to be able to see that. And so when people saw him walk down the aisle, they said, wow. His family is like, wow, because they knew his story. They were not expecting, I think a lot of people were probably expecting you to be in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, when you found out that 90% of people, was like a statistic, that don't get out of a wheelchair, I don't know what that number was.
Yeah, I think it was like 80%.
Okay.
But there was so once I was in the rehab, and they set me up with a peer, that's someone that's been through the same thing, right? That, I've been through. And when he came in and talked to me, he told me that. And when he said that, I was like, oh no, like that can't be me. And he said, he said the same thing when he was told that it couldn't be him. But I explained to him that when you walked in the door, because okay, when he walked in the door, he had shorts on so I could see his leg. And I told him, when you walked in the door, that was all I needed. Like, he didn't even have to open his mouth and say anything. That was all the inspiration I needed, was when he walked in that door. That was it. And, he did inspire me with words. He told me things and encouraged me. But really, that was all I needed, was when he walked in that door. Like, it really changed my spirit when he walked in that door. And all I could think about is, I want to make someone feel the way he made me feel.
Mm.
It was, once again, it's a hard thing to put into words when something changes your life like that. But there I am. This happened to me unexpected, not expecting this. And then, there's the journey, and along the way, that was one of the blessings in my journey, when they hooked me up with someone that had already been through it,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the most amazing, inspiring meeting, I had to date with that, with my situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really thankful for that because I saw God every step of the way. God never left me and has still never left me, in my entire life. He's never left me. But when I look at my journey with this particular situation, I saw God every step of the way.
Mm-hmm.
I saw God in the people, in the way I was treated, in the way people interacted with me, and in the information that I received.
Mm-hmm.
And it just filled me and made me want to share with other people
Yeah.
the blessings that I had received from God, and to really seek God for my purpose, because I knew that there had to be a purpose for all of this.
Yes.
You don't know
Yes.
a lot of
Yes.
times when
Yes.
things happen
Yes.
to you
Yeah.
what the reason is,
Right.
what the purpose is for that.
Right.
But I knew it had to be for a reason,
Yeah.
that it happened because, like I said in the previous video, I almost lost my life.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason I'm still here. There's
Right.
a reason God kept me here. So I'm laying there in the bed and I told God, I don't want to take another step without you.
Mm-hmm.
And, I told people that and I said, I know it sounds funny for me to say that because at the moment I couldn't walk,
Right.
but I didn't want to take another step without
Yeah.
God's guidance, without his leadership, and without him leading me to my purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. And he did just that.
Yeah.
Leading you to your purpose. The things that we go through in life, nothing you ever go through will ever be wasted. And I'm a believer in that. That, I'm a believer in it so much that the things that you go through, they're not even for you. It's not even about you. It's not even about you. And it's kind of hard to say to somebody who just lost a leg that, it ain't even about you, you know? But
Yeah.
it's about how God is going to use you and use your situation. Those that are hurting, that have gone through something and you have survived, and you didn't even survive, you're to a point now where you are thriving because it's not about you. He said you are more than a conqueror. You're not just going to conquer it, you're going to more than conquer. You're more than a conqueror. And that's the thing about it, that, like I said, I'm a believer in that we go through some things to help other people,
Yeah.
to bring them out. And that's like me being able, as your wife, to see the birthing of your purpose is pretty amazing, and to see that when you have that, because you could have came out bitter.
Yeah.
You could have. And I mean, that's real talk.
That's true.
That, and people would have felt like you were rightfully so, right? To be bitter. Um,
And I did realize that, right?
yeah.
Because, you know, um, I had nurses and doctors tell me stories about people in my same situation, that lost a limb. And, there was a guy around the same time that it happened to me that was on suicide watch
Mm.
because he said he couldn't live without his leg. He wouldn't be able to live without his job. And
Mm.
he really gave up, so I do realize that, without God, that would have been me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that I'm such a great person or I understand so well and know so much or I'm so much better than anybody. It's the grace of God
Right.
that I'm here today and that I
Yeah.
have the outlook and the mindset that I possess
Yeah.
because, we're all human and things affect us in different ways.
Right.
I think one of the things that really has been a blessing to me is my support system.
Mm-hmm.
I was blessed to have my wife and people around me that loved me.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that there are some people that have
Mm-hmm.
no one there for them, no one who cares. You know, they go through something like that and then they go home after that surgery and they're alone
Mm-hmm.
and there's no support system. So all of that plays a part. Supporting people and being there for people. A lot of times I feel like things don't really affect people if they feel like it's not something that's touching them.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not something they're going through or someone close to them, they're like, oh, well, it's not me. But that's where, sympathy and empathy comes in
Yeah.
for other people, because you don't have to go through something in order to have empathy for someone.
Right.
And I think, a lot of times people just don't get that. But the people that do, those are the true angels walking this earth,
Hmm.
because they have allowed God to enter their heart and to lead them and to touch them, to touch others. I know one thing that's important to me is to be able to help someone else and to be able to touch someone else that's in a situation where they're at their day one, just had surgery or whatever they're going through, and they don't know how they're going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
You need some inspiration or someone to maybe get you back on the path, to where you can see and not lose focus on God. Now, one of the things, you said was that, I could have became bitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there were a lot of people scared to contact me after this happened because they didn't know what my mindset would be and
Yeah.
how I would be, what place, I would be in mentally.
Right.
And it's a situation where I get it and I understand that, but I knew that there was no way that I could be bitter. Some people thought that I might be mad at God for what happened to me. And there's no way. Like, I had to get even closer to God. I needed God
Mm-hmm.
more than ever at that point to be
That
able to
part.
make it through that.
Yes.
It was a situation I had never been in. And, you know, I'm sure anyone that's going through that or any, difficult point in your life, it's somewhere you've never been.
Mm-hmm.
So you need God. You need the guidance. You need the strength that God provides.
Right.
I've always said you have your ups and downs, but you can't stay in the downs. You have to pull yourself up out of that, because if you stay there, it's only going to get worse.
Right.
And you're going to lose hope, you're going to lose faith, and it's a downward spiral after that. I think it's so important for the community that we are trying to build to inspire people, to give hope, because some people have none. And if we can touch just one person, I know it sounds like a cliche,
Right.
but if we can touch one person that God leads us to, or leads God to us, if we can touch that one person, we have fulfilled purpose,
Yeah.
because that's one person that may have had no hope, may have given up, and are now blessed with the seed inside of them that will now grow and manifest into the goodness and greatness that God has for them.
Yeah.
It's about love, it's about respect,
Yeah.
and it's about honoring each other.
Yeah. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe.
Thank you.
Love you guys.
Yep.